Well, another night, another live over on YouTube. And we'll just wait a couple seconds and see if anybody... See if we get anybody in here. Get my other account going here so I can see your questions. Yeah, maybe I'm not live. Am I live? I am live. There we go. Okay, I'm live. Good. All right. Well, there we go. That's the one I want to have up. Oh, there it is. Is it real or is it Memorex? All right, let's see if, besides myself, we got a couple people in here. All right, I'm not sure if we're going to run these things an hour or not. I'm still playing around with this because, you know, I'm lazy and don't want to edit. So whatever I get done with is what is going to get uploaded to YouTube, and 1 hour videos are not really the thing. So we may have to break this down into like 2 30 minutes, or I don't know. So here we go. All right, we're still not really looking at the ports yet. I'm keeping my eye on it. There are some, you know, we had the typhoons in the Pacific, which disrupted shipping and a little bit, and we also have, of course, the manufacturing issue in China, which has disrupted shipping. But I am going to break something out here. I'm actually going to I should pull this up. This is a feature that I use every day to check inbound container volume. And I can't show this on when I'm on TT because there's no app for it. It's pretty much all computer based. But as you can see, like this whole area in here, right? 2021 was really high. 2019 is over here. Here's 2020. This little dotted line is interest over the next week on container bookings, and we do have a little bit of an uptick in that, which is good. But we're also seeing at the top, it's kind of like capping out there. So we'll see if that plays out. If that, usually that 7-day out dotted line plays out, and then we'll see if it continues to go up, or if it levels off or comes back or whatever over the next few days, because this does update every day. And I found something before I looked at this, because they had this kind of messed up earlier. But I found something. There were 2 more CMA CMG ships added for the route from Busan, South Korea to Houston. And then I pulled this up and I saw that there was an increase. So yes, that definitely jives. Those 2 data points jive together. So that's, you know, that's a good sign there. And then I looked at the rail car report. Well, let's stay on this for a minute. Then I pulled this up. Now, this is kind of interesting. This is just over the last week or so. Actually, it is the last week. What you're seeing on the left is shipments to the United States. And what you're seeing on the right is shipments coming in to the United States, where they've been received. And over the last week, some of this is typhoon related, some of it is supply chain related, some of it is inflation related. So it's not a very good metric right now because of the typhoons in the Pacific. But it is interesting to note that the Port of Houston, they're down 22%, and they have a lot of container ships off the coast. So I'd be curious to know as to what was going on there. If anybody knows anyone, I may send a message to one of my folks on TT that lives near Houston. If y'all are from TT, you know Texas Car Buff. I'll probably send her a message and see if she knows anything about that. Port of Charleston's down 26%. They don't really get a lot anyway. LA is down 28%. Obviously, Savannah's up because they've got quite a few ships sitting off the coast of South Carolina. And then obviously Shanghai is down. And some of these I don't even try to pronounce because I don't even know. And then I don't know. I've never figured this out. I've been looking at this for a few months now, and I don't know why there's two Port of Yangshans, and they are the same. So that happens all the time with that one, and I don't know why. So if you're gonna ask me a question about it, I have no idea. So these two right here, I don't know why they put two of them in there, and they're identical. I don't know what that's about. So these are a couple of metrics that I look at every single day to determine what is going on in the leading edge of shipping, to see what we're looking at, what's coming in. All right. So I looked at the rail car report. I told myself I wasn't going to do this because I knew the rail car report was going to be a little off from last week because of the potential strike. So I was looking at the rail car report, and I'm kind of discounting it, but we'll take a look here together because it's kind of fun over here because I can show you guys all this stuff. Where's the rail car report? Right there. Yep, there it is. All right, so, total traffic was down 3% from last week, but it's kind of discounted because I think the trains were running light last week anyway because they were anticipating a strike that didn't happen. So we'll compare these numbers to the numbers next week, and we'll see if I think next week are going to be better than this because I think the trains are going to be running a little more efficiently than they were last week. With that, I got an email today that it looks like the rail workers got duped on their contract by union leadership. Union leadership, they went to DC and they said, hey, we've got a tentative agreement. Rail workers have not seen this agreement, apparently. There is no written agreement that has been agreed upon. Union basically came back and told the union members that they're like, hey, we really don't want to strike because the Democrats really can't take a strike going into the election. And they were like, well, you stabbed us in the back because you didn't really negotiate for anything. So this strike issue, the labor issue, is definitely not resolved with rail. Not sure what's going to happen there. I'm very beholden to the information that I get from people that work at the rail yards and in the rail industry. So your guess is as good as mine as to what's going to happen there. But we need to keep our eyes on it because it does not sound good, because the rail workers are like, hey, not only can we not trust the companies, we can't even trust our own union leadership. That is not a good sign. So what happened with the rail strike after last Friday, nobody talks about. Eugene, I hope that kind of answered your question. You got in a little ahead of where I was going with that. So if you haven't seen it yet, I would definitely go watch my recap of the CEOs of the big banks in front of the House of Representatives from yesterday. I tried watching it today. They were in front of the Senate Banking Committee, and the only one that was really any good that was entertaining was Elizabeth Warren. She got mad and then stormed out of the room. And then another guy asked the same question, and they were willing to answer him, but none of the CEOs wanted to answer Elizabeth Warren. They just didn't want to deal with her. I'm sure Elizabeth Warren calls these guys like every day. So, but yesterday, if you go on to YouTube, you watch the 6 hour, 8 minute mark. Yes, I watched 6 freaking hours of testimony in front of the House Financial Services Committee. As boring as that was, I watched it so you don't have to. Everybody was focused on the Fed, and really the real story was the CEOs in front of Congress, because yes, even though there was grandstanding by committee officials and not a lot of information given, every once in a while, you'll get a handful of people that will ask the right questions, that will they'll get some good answers out of it. And since I wasn't live yesterday, we'll go ahead and get into a couple of those. And one of them was the merchant code about firearm purchases. Shannon Joe, yes, thank you. Please like. If you enjoy the content, please like and share. Well, these are harder to share, but like and definitely subscribe. So the credit card companies now have a merchant code that they have to, whenever gun purchases are made, there's a separate code for that. And they asked the banks, hey, are you going to abide by this rule? And they all said, well, we're going to abide by it. Yeah, because you put the code out there, we kind of have to. And they said, well, do you think it's going to stop mass shootings? And because you'll be able to red flag these purchases. And Jamie Dimon leans forward and he goes, you guys have access to every single firearms purchase. He basically said, hey, you get the app, you actually could flag the purchase before it even gets to the register, which was brilliant on his part. As you all know, if you follow me, I'm not a Jamie Dimon guy, but yesterday he was clearly the smartest person in the room. And then today he just sat back and observed. He didn't really say a lot from what I was watching. And part of the reason Jamie Dimon's the smartest guy in the room is because he's been CEO for so long. CEO longer than I think all of these other guys combined, possibly. J-Red, you were going to ask me about the banking. So, if you haven't seen it, I did a video about AOC. She was quite incompetent as usual. Another slapback that Jamie Dimon had was they were asking him about the CBDC and how would that impact things. And he goes, I don't think it's really going to be a problem as long as it's going to be done correctly. And then he says, but I don't think it's going to be done correctly. So there you go. Jamie Dimon, just not very confident in the Fed setting up the CBDC effectively. Also, something I did not know, they were asked about why they restrict cash deposits. I don't know if anybody's ever gone and made a big cash deposit, but sometimes that's a challenge. You can't withdraw the money right away or with a check or whatever. And they said, they were basically like, I don't know. Why do we restrict cash deposits? So it's not the banks that are restricting the cash deposits. It's not their policy. It's a regulation that's been pushed down by the House of Representatives, the House and Senate banking, and they. So it's not even their policy. It's something they're told they have to do. I did not know that until yesterday. So that was interesting. Really, the guy I wrote down the most that said anything was Jamie Dimon. Most of the really tough questions were asked of him because he had all the answers. Nobody really had anything other than him. Brian Moynihan, CEO of Citi, had some answers. Jane Fraser, if you guys have followed me at all, I've talked about her. She's the CEO of Citi. She's a hot mess. She really doesn't have any idea what she's doing when it comes to fixing Citi's issues. And then William Demchek, I believe he is the CEO of PNC. That dude was on it, and he actually in the brief time I watched him in the Senate Banking Committee hearing today, he was full of piss and vinegar today. He wasn't really taking anything from these folks. So it was definitely eye-opening to see him. I thought he did really well yesterday, and he did pretty well today. I'm not a fan of either of these people on either side, but, really what I'm looking for when I'm watching these is I'm looking for indications of directions of the economy, directions of monetary policy, trying to get insights into maybe things that may not be known in the media or in the news for a few weeks. So you're kind of looking at these. He chewed up Tlaib. Yeah, that was pretty good. Rashida Tlaib yesterday was on there as the person that was just supposed to basically scream and yell. Today it was Elizabeth Warren. I actually have a list of 4 people that I thought asked very good questions yesterday, and I have a list of 5 people that were just ridiculous. So on the good side, we have Bill Huizenga. Actually, I think the best one was Vincent Gonzalez. He had really good, well thought out questions. Ed Pelmeter was pretty good, and Bill Posey, I gave kind of an honorable mention. I thought he was good, but better than the others, but not great. But definitely Vincent Gonzalez. He had really well thought out macroeconomic questions. Very, very good. 5 I have that were very, very poor was Brad Sherman. Brad Sherman asked complex questions that needed complex answers, and he's just like, yes or no, and he'd go down the line. Al Green talked about how the banks were going to handle slavery reparations because they were all involved in funding the Southern war machine for the Civil War. Totally a pointless line of questioning. Rashida Tlaib handled the ESG questioning and was just quite combative as she usually is. The one that kind of surprised me, and I didn't even know who this lady was, is Cindy Axney. She's a representative from Des Moines, and she was basically had her nose up the backside of the CEO of Wells Fargo, because Wells Fargo has several offices and locations in Des Moines, and she's like, hey, I hear you're getting out of the mortgage business. Is that true? Is this going to affect people in Des Moines? Are you going to, are these people going to lose their jobs? And because representatives can't really think more than 2 steps ahead, she didn't realize that if Wells Fargo shut down operations and they lose their jobs, someone else is going to come in and pick up that business. And more than likely, Wells Fargo is not going to just close. They're going to sell that business off. And those people probably are not going to end up losing their jobs unless the housing market just completely collapses. And then Pete Sessions, I have him on here, and honestly, I don't think I have any notes on why he was. Oh, I know why he was bad. That Pete Sessions is on here because all he did was tell the banks how great they were and what a service they were providing for the community. And you're sitting there watching there, and you're like, dude, do you have a question at all? Do you have a question? So he was pointless in the entire operation yesterday. Let's see. What do I think of Q&A with Powell yesterday? He said unemployment heading to 4.4 in the housing market. Well, the unemployment's heading above 4.4 probably. Housing market. The housing market is on. It's teetering on the edge. There's a lot of cracks in the housing market. Now, some of this is you have to kind of look at it. But like with, where's housing? Consumer, housing, building permits. So when you look at something like building permits, you really have to look at year over year. So this is September. So you really have to look at, okay, you can't really compare August to. Actually, can we do a 2-year? I want to do let's do a line. Let's do a 5-year. All right, so you have to compare year over year because you can't compare September to July because clearly building permits are much higher in the summer months than they are in the winter months. So you can't compare December to July. You just can't. You have to compare it, based on the previous year. So 15 higher. I wish this had actually a 2-year. Here we go. Maybe we'll do this chart. I like the column. There we go. And yeah, this will work. And 23. We'll go 07, 23, 2000. All right, so we're comparing August to August. So we had 1.5 million. So when you compare it year over year, there's a very stark difference between the number of building permits in August last year to August this year. Any big news coming tomorrow? I haven't looked. What happened to your shipping lanes map behind you? Scott, that is on TikTok. I can't really run with my camera on and be on camera and have this be effective on YouTube. So YouTube is a little bit of a different setup than TikTok. TikTok, I will still have the shipping lane maps up or at least my logo backdrop that I put in my videos. But I can't really the YouTube situation's a little bit different. If you guys thought me freezing on TikTok was bad, it would be really bad on YouTube. Matter of fact, to the point that I don't even shoot videos and edit them. I just go live and whatever comes out, and then it just gets uploaded. So, I was going to show something, maybe yes, no, maybe so. Let's see, did I get everything covered from the banking? Oh, one of the dumbest questions that was asked, I didn't get the lady's name. She was from New York. She said, how do you facilitate more home ownership in a rising interest rate environment? And the first thought that came to my mind was, do you even understand economics? Because you're just going to have less home ownership in an environment of rising interest rates. That's just common knowledge. So, I need to go back and watch this about Brian Moynihan because he said something, and all I've got down as a quote is, I've been saying this for 10 damn years, ain't I, Miguel? I didn't have the quote. I didn't have what he was saying to go with that. That's really too bad because I'm sure that would have been funny. Jamie Dimon was asked about how confident he was in a soft landing. He leaned forward into the mic, smiled, and said, I have my fingers crossed. So he doesn't even buy into the Fed's soft landing. The banks were asked about if they were properly capitalized, should the bottom fall out. This is Pelmeter's question. And they said, yes, they all are. And I've been listening to their earnings calls. Yes, they are, because they are anticipating a housing collapse. They know, or at least a credit crunch. They are anticipating that. They're expecting it, and they are prepared for it. They are handling risk better than they did in 2008, which is actually amazing to me. I don't have who asked this, but Moynihan was asked, how do you compete with the world when China has the top 4 banks? And he said those banks would have no problem acquiring any one of us. So that was kind of telling. All right, back to my notes here. Something on the food shortage-ish front. Anybody hear there was a grain solo fire in Delphi, Indiana? So that happened earlier this week. Cindy, yes. I don't know of the exact math on that, but that probably is a possibility, and that will actually start to bring home prices down more, so that people can buy those. But I'm not sure how much is actually going to be purchased. The mortgage applications for last week were up, which they usually are the week before interest rate hikes. So, because everybody knew that the interest rate hike was going to be 75 basis points yesterday. I mean, I'd been talking about that for a while. It was probably a 90% chance of 75 basis points, 5% chance of 50 basis points, and 5% chance of 100 basis points, because they could have surprised you either way. They're actually the Fed is in a tough spot. You know, if you increase interest rates, you kill the housing market, but you get inflation under control. If you continue to go with the easy monetary policy, you have a situation where inflation gets out of control, home prices go crazy, but everybody makes a ton of money. And everybody makes a ton of money because inflation is rampant. Speaking of that, I actually see... unless they get the owner equivalent rents number right, I think inflation is going to come down again. I don't really see us. I can't really. Again, unless they get owner equivalent rents right, I can't see a scenario where we're going to have inflation rise until we start seeing the effects of winter heating costs. There's also some talk of a natural gas shortage. So food prices are so out of control. Cindy, where are you at? Because I think it depends on your region. Like for us here in the Midwest or the Plains areas, our food prices have stabilized at high. And they haven't gotten ridiculous yet. So I think it may just depend on where you're at. And then also as we get a little bit deeper into the harvest season, I could definitely see food prices going up. But I think we got one more month of potentially inflation coming down. And but then once the harvest starts coming in and we start getting some of those heating costs in, I think inflation is definitely going to wreak havoc on us right in time for the holidays. Won't that be fun? Speaking of that, real quick. So, man, as you guys can see, I do a lot during the day. All right, so one of the biggest things that probably affects oil prices in the fall is hurricanes. And this little area here they've been watching. They were saying, yeah, it's going to develop into a hurricane. And I'm not a meteorologist because I was watching it and I was like, really? But yeah, no, there we go. It is definitely developing into a storm. This is supposed to, the consensus on all the models, it's going to come into the Gulf. It's going to hit something. Nobody knows what. So if y'all are in the Gulf, Houston, Cindy, you're going to start getting hit with this storm probably. Well, maybe that's one of the paths that this storm's that they have this storm taking. But depending on, I'd say once it gets to about here is when they may start determining when they're going to evacuate the oil rigs in the Gulf, because they'll probably be able to better tell the path of the storm. So they won't, evacuate all the rigs, just, some of them. So anyway, you've been watching. Yeah. Start getting your stuff now, I guess, because they are pretty sure about this one. When I first saw some videos about this one yesterday, I was like, I'm not a meteorologist, but this looks ridiculously unorganized. And then this one back here also, I guess, has a decent probability of forming, but they don't really have any kind of a track on it. So anyway, that's oil, and that is all she wrote for tonight. So, folks, I will be back on TikTok Sunday night. I may do a couple more of these over the weekend. I mean, this is actually how I'm doing videos anyways. I just come on, I do live. Whoever joins. I don't want to shoot, edit, and upload videos. I just one take and upload. Be done. So, it takes me, sometimes when I'm doing TikTok videos, it'll take me 30 minutes to shoot a 90-second video because I can't get the date right. My nose itches. I start laughing. My wife's laughing. An alarm goes off. All kinds of crazy stuff. So anyway, with that, folks, that is pretty much all I got for you tonight. Actually, it was quite a bit. Normally when we're on TikTok, it only takes me about 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, to go through the stuff. So keep watching for stuff on TikTok. I'll be back Sunday night, 9 o'clock on TT, and we'll see how this plays out on both of them. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and we will catch up with y'all over on the other app another time. So y'all have a good night, and we'll catch up with you later. Oh, I don't want to do that. Let's do this one first. See y'all later.